Hi everyone, it's me Terry of the Yarnjoy podcast. Welcome back to another tutorial. Let's make a backpack buddy. If you've been following along on my regular podcast episodes, you know that I've been making these backpack buddies. And they're kind of addicting once you get started making them. And so I was thinking that maybe you would like to go along with me and make one with me. So I'll let you know what everything you need to make this backpack buddy, and then we can get started. Okay, so first of all, you need a clip that you can hang your backpack buddy from. Now these clips, let me put this aside and show you. Okay, so these clips right there is what I like to use. I just ordered them from Amazon. They are called 1.5 metal 1.5 inch metal swivel clasps for keys lanyards. 50 pack is what I ordered. Okay, and I will put a link in the description box below of where I ordered this on Amazon. Okay, now you don't have to use this. You could use key rings. Okay, if you want to, that's another option. And of course you need yarn. Now for this size, I like to use a number 3 weight yarn is what I've been using. You could even make it smaller, and if you have any type of scrap of a number 2 weight yarn, this is just a 3 weight. You need just a small amount of what the muzzle is going to be, which I'm using this white, and this of course doesn't have a label. It's just a scrap ball, but what it is this Bernat Softy Baby. So I do know that the weights of the 2 yarns that I'm picking is the same. They're the same. Okay. Okay, and so let's see, what else do you need? You need some safety eyes. You don't have to have safety eyes. You can embroidery or stitch on eyes if you prefer. I just think the safety eyes are cute because they're shiny. So if you choose to use safety eyes, the ones that I used is the 7.5 millimeter size. Okay, so you need that. Safety eyes if you're going to use safety eyes. You need just a little bit of black yarn. I have this. It's only about 10 inches long. It's some worsted weight yarn, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this to embroidery embroidery, is that right? To stitch on the nose detail, okay, on my muzzle. And of course you would use it also for the eyes if you're going to sew on the eyes. You need some stuffing of some sort. You could use scrap pieces of yarn, or you can use, I'm just using some polyfill. Okay, and you also need 3 strands. Now I cut these about 9 inches long. It's 3 strands of what I used is crochet thread. This is a cotton number 10 thread, like you used to use for, like they would use for doilies. Okay, let's see what else. I like to use this plastic container. It's just a plastic container that I put my bobbin down in, or the rest of this crochet cotton down in, and that just gives me a nice weighted object that I can clip. If you're using one of these clips, you can clip it to the edge of the container like that, and then when you're braiding these threads on there to make your hanger, it just gives you something kind of to hold on to. I mean, for the clip to hold on to. Okay. Scissors, of course. I'm going to use a darning needle. I like these from Clover. They're the chibi needles. And your crochet hook, of course. And I like to use this. It's a I don't know if you can read it, but it's a 2.5 millimeter hook. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do the muzzle. So I'm going to take my white yarn, or whatever color you want to use for the muzzle. Okay, and I am going to do, now you can do either a magic ring, which is what I'm going to be doing. You do not like to do magic rings, you can always chain 2 and then work in the second chain from the hook, okay? And you're going to put 6 single crochets in that second chain from the hook. Okay, I'm going to make a magic ring. Okay, so I'll try to describe how I do it, and maybe it'll help you. Okay, so I take my yarn in my non-hook hand, okay, and I stick 2 fingers out. I lay the working yarn, or the end of the yarn, over it with the end hanging down. See that? And then I pinch it with my thumb, okay, and then I wrap it around the back and around, you know, bring it around, and then I cross it over like that, and then I'm going to pinch it there where I crossed it. Okay, now I'm going to move my hand up this direction, see, and then I'm going to use my these 2 fingers and I'm going to grab a hold of the yarn. Okay, now I'm going to take my hook and I'm going to put it underneath that first loop, and then I'm going to grab the other strand, and I'm going to pull under it, okay, like that, and then I'm going to pull up the loop, and then I'm going to grab this working yarn, and then I'm going to do 1 chain. Oh, right, there you go. And then I can hold on to that chain, and I can take my fingers out, okay, and then I go ahead and load up my hand the way I like to do when I'm regularly crocheting, okay, and then I start crocheting into that ring, and I do like to hold between my thumb and my other little smaller fingers here, right where this other yarn is, so then this piece won't come undone, okay, won't come out of that loop, okay, just like that. Okay, now I'm going to do 6 single crochets into that loop, okay, 1, 2, now I can kind of pinch and hold the base of it if I need to, 3, 4, 5, and 6. See that? Okay, now I'm going to take this string here and I'm going to pull it, and that's going to close up that circle, the ring, okay? Now, I'm going to do continuous rounds, I think you call it. In other words, I'm not going to slip stitch into the first, I'm not going to join this round, in other words, okay? I'm just going to continue on to the next round. And in round 2, I want to do 2 single crochets in each stitch around. So here's 1, and then I go back into the same stitch again for 2, okay, and then keep going around. So 3, 4, doing 2 single crochets into each stitch, 5, 6, 11, and 12. Okay, now I'm going to finish this off because that's all the rounds I need for the muzzle. So I'm going to go insert my hook into the next stitch, and I'm going to do a slip stitch just to join it, okay, like that. And then I'm going to chain 1, and then I'm going to cut my yarn, and I want to make sure I leave a pretty good tail because I'm going to use that to stitch the muzzle onto the face of the bear. Okay. Sorry, I got dull scissors. Okay, and so I cut my yarn, and then where I did this chain 1, I'm just going to pull it all the way through to pull my yarn out. Okay, and there is the muzzle. Okay, now what I'm going to do is pull that this is the very beginning where the beginning strand, and I'm going to pull it tight to cinch up that in the circle in the middle. Okay, now I'm going to take my darning needle and I'm going to thread that end and then just secure it so that way this ring, the magic ring, doesn't loosen up in the middle. Okay, and now I'm going to cut this, and you don't have to cut it super close because this is going to be underneath the muzzle. Okay, about like that, because see, you're going to tuck it underneath and you won't see it when you stitch it onto the face. I mean, to the bear. Okay, so let's go ahead and stitch our nose on. And like I said, you want to, I like to go ahead and pull this where I have only 2 strands of yarn. Okay. That way it's a little bit finer when you're stitching with it. Okay, so now I'm going to thread my needle. Okay, and then I'm going to come up from the bottom, and I'm going to come up right through the center hole. Okay, okay, so I'm going to go right up through that center hole where my circle. Okay, so up through there. And remember, you want to leave a little tail at the back so that way you can secure it when you get finished stitching. Okay, and now I'm going to imagine doing a triangle from that center hole, being that is the bottom point of the triangle. So I want to go up diagonally, and usually I just go into that hole, into one of the stitch holes. Okay, so or if you want the nose to be a little bit bigger, you can go right above it and pull that through. Okay. Now I'm going to come up through the center hole again. Okay. And then I'm going to go over the other direction to finish up, to do the other side of my triangle. So it's like you're skipping a stitch and going over here, and then I'm going to go just right above that hole, just so that my nose would be a little bit closer to the top. Okay, so now we have a V. Now you could just keep it like that and do 1 stitch down for the mouth and just leave it that way if you want, or you can fill in the nose. And to fill in the nose, I just bring my needle up through the first stitch that I made, do that same spot, like that, and then I go across the top to make the top part of the triangle, like that. Okay, and see, it almost filled it in. I can see just a little bit of white right there, so the way you can fill that in is I just come up from the middle of the circle again, the same spot. Get it to go through there. Okay. And then I just go right up the top, and that pretty much usually will fill in that little hole there. See? So now we have our triangle for the nose. Okay, now 1 more stitch. I like to go up through that middle circle 1 last time. Okay, and now I'm just going to do 1 stitch going straight down from that triangle. Okay, and I like to leave, now I don't go all the way to the edge of the white circle, but I do like to get pretty close to it, but where you will still see a little bit of the white underneath it. And do 1 stitch, and see, that will be his mouth. Okay, and it's okay that this is off to the side, it's not completely at the bottom, that doesn't matter. We're just going to use this to stitch it onto the face. Okay, now I'm going to turn this over. What I want to do is I want to tie the end and the working yarn, these 2 strands, I'm just going to tie it in a knot. Now you don't want to pull it so tight that it distorts what you're doing on the front. In fact, you can flip it over and kind of look and see, make sure that your nose still looks pretty good. I mean, it looks like you want it. And then tie another knot. Okay, all I'm going to do is cut this short. Now I don't want to cut it so short that I'm afraid that it's going to come unstitched. Like that, okay? But because see, all this is going to be tucked behind when you sew the muzzle on, and you won't see it. Okay, so there you go. See that? Looks really messy from the back, but looks pretty good from the front. Okay, so now we have our muzzle. So now we can set that aside, and we can start on the, oh, and we also, we are done with our white yarn. So see, you just needed a very tiny, small amount. Okay, so now we have our main color, and we're gonna get started on the rest of our bear. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and start again with a magic ring. You can reverse the video and go through. I'm just going to go ahead and do it quickly. You can reverse it and look at how I did it in the beginning. Or like I said, if you're not comfortable with magic ring, don't let that stop you from not making yourself a backpack buddy. You can always chain 2. Start with a slip stitch, chain 2, and then work your stitches in the second chain from the hook. And that will be sufficient, okay? Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and do my magic ring right quick. And then I'm going to get started. Okay. So we're going to do just like we did the muzzle, and we're going to do 6 single crochets into the ring, okay? Or you would do 6 single crochets into the second chain from the hook if you chain 2. Start with slip stitch and chain 2. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, I'm pull my ring closed, and just like the muzzle, I'm not going to join. I'm just going to work in a spiral or continuous rounds. Okay, round 2 is going to be work 2 single crochets in each stitch around, and that'll give you 12 stitches. So count back from the hook if you can't find your first stitch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's my first stitch right there. And I'm going to do 2 single crochets in each stitch around. So 1, 2, 3, 4, oops, 5, 6, 7, whoops, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Okay. You can pull that beginning thread there to close up your circle. Okay, and then now that is the end of round 2. Round 3, I'm going to do 1 single crochet in the first stitch, and then 2 single crochets in the next stitch. And I'm going to repeat that sequence all the way around, and you'll end up with 18 stitches when you're finished. Okay, so 1 single crochet into the first stitch, so 1, and then 2 single crochets in the next one. So 2 and 3. That's the way I like to count it. And then you have 4, 5, and 6. So you're doing 1 single crochet and then 2 single crochets. 7, 8, and 9. 10, 11, and 12. 13, oops, 13, 14, and 15. 16, 17, and 18. So I know they'll have 18 stitches around, okay? Okay, next round, round 4, you're going to do 1 single crochet in each of next 2 stitches, and then 2 single crochet in the next, okay? So that would be 1 single crochet in the first stitch, 1 single crochet in the next one, and then do 2 single crochets. Okay, so that was 1, 2, 3, and 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, 21, 22, 23, and 24. Okay, so now we have 24. And that was the end of round 4. Okay, so the end of round, then not the end. So for round 5, we want to do 1 single crochet in each of next 3 stitches, and then we'll do 2 single crochets in the next one. Okay, and we'll end up with 30 stitches. Okay, I'll get started counting it for you, but then I will, you don't want to have to listen to me count all the way to 30. So I will then meet you at the end, okay? Now, you can always get a stitch marker, and which I will be doing that. I forgot to tell you to get a stitch marker in the beginning. But you can always get a stitch marker or just use another piece of your yarn, because see, well, since I'm not stitching my eyes in, I don't need any more of this yarn, so I'll just do that. I will cut myself a piece to use as a stitch marker. Okay, so anyway, you can put your stitch marker where you're starting, and then you're going to go around, and like I said, you're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches, and then an increase, which is 2 single crochets in that stitch. Okay, so that would look like 1 single crochet in the first one, 1 single crochet in the second one, and then 1 single crochet in the third one, and then 2 single crochets in that one. See that? So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, 6, 7, 7, 8, 9, and 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. So I'm halfway around. I'm going to keep going around until I get to the end, and I will meet you when I get up back to my marker. Okay, so I continued on that round. This was round 5, and I got all the way back to my marker, and so now I have 30 stitches around my circle. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and pull the marker out, and then I'm going to pull my stitch out a ways because I don't want to lose that stitch. But I like to get about this far on my circle, and then I'm going to go ahead and we're going to attach our string and clip for the backpack buddy. Okay, I find it much easier to do that before you get really far along with it, and then you're having to work on the inside, and sometimes it can get kind of awkward. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and do it now. So I'm going to take my cup here, and I've got my clip clipped onto it. See that? Okay, now I'm going to take my 3 strands that I have of this crochet cotton that I cut previously. I'm going to thread all 3 strands through the bottom part of my clip, through the ring. Okay, even them up, and now I'm going to take 1 strand from one side and 1 strand from the other side. Okay, so then I have 3 sections of 2 strands each, and now I'm just going to do an old-fashioned braid. Okay, so however you like to do a braid, just that's how you can do it. Okay, so, and I like to use my thumb and forefinger to kind of hold the work kind of together, so that way it doesn't come unbraided and it will be nice and firm. And I'm just going to braid it. What I've been pretty much doing is I've been just taking my finger, and I'll put my second knuckle up there where it starts, and I kind of measure down, and when it gets down to the tip of my finger, that's about how long I do it until I stop. Not very scientific. That's pretty good. See that? So now I'm going to take my strands and I'm going to separate that middle section so that way I will have 3 on one side and 3 on the other. Okay. Okay, now holding them together where the braid stops, I'm going to come back over and get my circle piece. Okay. And then I'm going to take my hook and come up from underneath, and I'm going to come up through the hole of the circle, the starting ring. And I'm going to grab a hold with my hook, one of those 2 strands, see that? Sections, one of those sections. And I'm just going to pull it through my piece. Like that, to the underneath, see that? Okay, and now I'm still holding on to my braid here, the very end of it. I'm going to do the same thing, but now I'm going to come up in a different section. And usually when it's in rounds like that, I will come up, one piece of it will come up through the very center, and then the next one will come up the next round. See that? And then I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to hook that other section of yarn and I'm going to pull that through to the underside. Okay, now I can grab both of them from underneath and pull them until you get to where the braid is meeting your piece. See that? Okay, now I'm going to flip it over and then I'm going to tie it into a double knot. And you want to tie it pretty firmly. Now don't tie it so tight that it starts yanking your or pulling your braid through there. Okay, you don't need it quite that tight, but you do want to tie it pretty tight. Okay, and then I tie it again. Okay, and that one I want to tie really tight. Now I've never had any of these come undone, but if you want to, just as an added bonus, you could always put like a dot of super glue or something in there to secure it even more, but I never have. Okay, and while I'm at it, I'm going to take this working yarn and I'm just going to get, I'm going to get my darning needle and I'm going to thread it, and then I am going to run this piece under some of the strands of yarn just to kind of secure that magic ring down. You just need a couple of stitches there. Like that. Okay? Okay. Now we can unclip our clip from our cup. Like that. And we put our cup away. And now we're going to go back and continue on with our circle. And you can cut this here underneath if it bothers you for it to be hanging like that, but you don't have to, because it's going to be on the inside of your ball that is the head of your bear. Okay, so now I'm going to recover my stitch here and pull it down with the hook in it so I don't lose it. Okay, and now we're ready to go on to round 6. Okay, so round 6, we're just going to put 1 single crochet in each stitch around. Okay, so you do want to use your marker here so that way you don't have to count 30 so many times, just over and over and over. But you want to do that for round 6 all the way to round 12. So 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Just doing 1 single crochet in each stitch around, and just move your yarn marker or whatever you're using for a marker, you move it each time when you complete that round. Okay, so let me get you started here. So we're not increasing or decreasing, we're just going to do stay at 30 stitches, and we're just going to go all the way around. And like I said, this is round 6, so you keep doing that. You do round 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, and then I'm going to keep working on mine, and I will meet you up when I'm at the end of round 12. Okay? Okay, so I just finished round 12 and I am ready to go on to round 13. Okay, so round 13, I am going to start the decreases. Okay, so right now we still have 30 stitches, and on round 12 we're going to do, round 13 we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches and then decrease in the next stitch, and we're going to repeat that around 6 times and we'll end up with 24 stitches. Okay, so we're going to place our marker and we're going to single crochet in the next 3 stitches. So 1, 2, 3. Now we're going to do an invisible decrease, and the way I like to do that is I place my hook underneath the first loop only of the next stitch and underneath the first loop only of the next stitch, and then I draw up a loop through both of those stitches and complete my single crochet. So there is a invisible decrease. Okay, and then you just repeat that sequence around. So 1 single crochet in the next 3 stitches and then a decrease. Okay, and I'll meet you up at the end. So I just finished round 13, and now we're going to now we're ready to do round 14, except I like to go ahead, since I'm already decreasing down, I want to stop right here, pull out my loop a little bit so I won't lose that stitch, and now I'm going to go ahead and place my safety eyes before it gets too small to work inside that area. Okay, so I look at the top of my where we started, okay, and then that first circle right there in the center, that's round 1, and so I want to place my safety eyes between rounds 7 and 8 of my bear head. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. So between these 2 rounds, okay, I'm going to insert one of the safety eyes. Okay, now I want to place the other safety eye on that same line, but I want to have I like to have 5 of these empty holes between that you can see visible between the 2 eyes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I'll place it right here and see if that's right. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, that's pretty good. Another thing you can do is, since we have already got the muzzle made, I can lay the muzzle there in between to see if the spacing looks pretty good. Yeah, I think that would be good. Okay, so now we need to go ahead and put the backs on your eyes. I'm going to go ahead and put the backs on them, and then I will be right back. Okay, so I've got my eyes secured onto my piece, and I'm going to take my crochet hook and put it back into my loop, pull it down, and then we're going to continue on. Okay, so take my marker out so I can move it up. We are now on row 14. Okay, so for this round, we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches and then a decrease, and we'll do that all the way around. Okay, so go ahead and put my marker to get started here. Oops. Okay, so 1 single crochet in the next 2 stitches. So 1, 2, and then an invisible decrease. Okay, 1, 2, and then an invisible decrease. Oops. In the front loops only. Okay, now repeat that around and I'll meet you up at the end. Okay, so now I just finished that round. That was round 14, and we now have a total of 18 single crochets around our circle. So I'm going to pull my marker out, and now I'm going to start stuffing it a little bit. Still working, and then I will stuff more as I go. Okay, Okay, so now we're ready to continue on with round 15. So for this round, we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next stitch and then 1 decrease in the next. And we're going to do that all the way around, okay? Okay, so I'm going to put my marker and then I'm going to continue on. So 1 single crochet into the first stitch and then an invisible decrease in the next, in the front loops only. Okay, and then 1 single crochet in the next one in both loops, and then an invisible decrease in the next. Okay, 1 single crochet in the next one, invisible decrease. Okay, and you're going to do that all the way around, and I'll meet you up when I get to the end. So now I just finished round 15, and I'm going to pull out my marker, and I can go ahead and put a little bit more stuffing in there. Okay, so last stitch around. Now remember, we have 12 stitches right now. Okay, so round 16, now we're going to do a decrease in each of the stitches around. Okay, so we have 12 right now. We're going to end up with 6. I'm going to go ahead, instead of placing my marker, since we're just going to do 6 decreases, I'm just going to count them. Okay, so still doing the invisible decrease. Oops. There's 1. 2. 3. 4. Okay, now I've got 2 more to do, but I think I'm going to add just a little bit of stuffing in there, because we're just kind of we're stuffing as we go. Oops. You can use your pinky to stuff the remaining small pieces in there, or of course you can use the back of your crochet hook as well. Okay, so remember that was 4, so now we need to do 2 more decreases. So that was 5 and 6. Okay. So now I want to, I'm going to fasten off, but I want to leave a pretty long tail, you know, fairly long, because I'm going to use that to weave in the, or to finish it off, the very top of it. Okay. So I'm going to do a slip stitch into the next stitch, the front loop only, okay, like that, and then I'm going to go ahead and just pull it all the way through. Okay, so now I'm going to take my yarn needle, oops, not the marker, and then I'm going to weave in my end. So the way I'm going to draw up this hole there, I'm going to do in the front loop only, from the front to the back of the next stitch, and then the next one I'm going to do the back to the front loop only, and I'm going to do that all the way around. So front to the back of the next one, front loop only, and then front from the back to the front on the next stitch, front loop only. Okay, and then from the front to the back, and then the back to the front. Okay, and then I'm going to pull it and cinch up my bottom. Okay, and then you can take some stitches through there just to hide your ends in there. Oop, I got my hook there. Okay. Also, if you can see, especially just around these last few rows, if you can see the stuffing through your stitches, you can use this long tail, kind of running it under there to kind of cover that up and hide where you see the stuffing. Okay. Okay. And then I'm going to clip it close to the edge. Oops. Okay, and then see how you have that little tiny little piece sticking out? If you can see that, you just take your needle, you insert it underneath close to where that is, and you can just kind of wiggle your needle around underneath there, and it will pull the piece through into the inside. Okay, so see, you can kind of mold it to get the shape that you want. Okay, so the next thing we need to do is we need to set this aside, and we're going to make the 2 ears. Okay, so now I'm ready to make the ear. I'm going to start with a magic ring, but of course, same as with the head. If you want to chain, just start with the slip stitch, chain 2, and work in that second chain from the hook and work your single crochets. You can do that as well, okay? But I'm going to start with the magic ring. Okay. Now just like we did with the head, I'm going to single crochet 6 times into that ring. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I'm going to pull my string here to close up my circle. Okay, on to round 2. We're going to do 2 single crochets in each stitch around, and that's going to give us 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 10, 11, and 12. Okay, that's the end of round 2. Now for round 3, we're going to do 1 single crochet in the first stitch and then 2 single crochets in the next stitch, and we'll end up with 18 stitches when we get finished with this round. So 1 single crochet, and then in the first stitch, and then 2 in the next. So that's 1, 2, and 3. We did 2 stitches in that one. 4, and 1 more repeat. 16, 17, and 18. Okay, so that completes round 3. So for round 4, we're going to do just 1 single crochet in each stitch around. We're not going to be increasing or decreasing. We're just still going to have 18 stitches, okay? So I'll go ahead and put my marker here to start the round off. And then we're just going to do 1 single crochet all the way around, okay? 1 in each stitch. Okay, so I just finished with round 4. Now we're going to go 1 more round, which will be round 5. And in this round, we're going to do 1 single crochet in the next stitch and then 1 decrease in the next one, okay? And when we do that, we're going to end up with 12 stitches, okay? Okay, so I just finished that one in that round. That was round 5, and so we're finished with our ear. So we're going to take the marker out and go ahead and slip stitch in the very next stitch to fasten off. Cut your yarn, leaving yourself a tail because you're going to use this to sew the ear onto the head, and then just pull the yarn through. Okay. Now we are not going to stuff the ears. So what I'm going to do is just going to take this beginning tail, tighten it up a little bit, and then I'm going to just stuff it inside the ear. Okay? And then I want to fold fold it flat. The string where we finished off, I want that to be at the edge. So I kind of shift it, twist it, shift it until this is on this one of the sides. Okay, and then there is your ear. So I've already done my other one. So now I have 2 ears, and I have my head, and I have the muzzle. So all that's left now is to stitch the pieces on. Okay, so take my needle. I'm going to go ahead and do the muzzle first. I'm going to thread the needle with the white yarn from the muzzle. Okay. And then I'm going to get started sewing it on. Okay. So I like to place my muzzle between the eyes, and the top of the muzzle kind of lines up on that line right across the middle that goes between the middle of the eyes, which is, this is round 7, and the next one is round 8 of the head. And so I kind of line it up there in the middle and make sure my nose is straight. And then you can use, now if you want to, you can use pins to hold this in place from where you want to stitch it. Okay, you can do that. Or you can just put your thumb over it and hold it down. That's what I usually do. Okay, so then now you're just going to use your white thread, and you're going to start stitching the muzzle onto the face. I mean onto the, well, the head. And I need to tuck the black yarn here underneath so you can't see that. That's where I stitched on the mouth. Okay. So then I just work my stitches around, sewing on the muzzle. Just picking up a little bit of the thread, and then going back through the muzzle. Okay. And I check it, make sure it looks like I got to shift it over just a little bit and hold it down. And then continue stitching around. That looks better. And then run it through. Come out on the other side of the head somewhere. Okay. That looks pretty good. Okay. So then I just run it back through the head, and I usually do it in a couple of different directions to hide the yarn inside the head. And then I snip it off close to the head. Then you take your needle, see how it's sticking out there? You take your needle and insert it into the head, kind of close to the where that thread is sticking out, and just kind of wiggle the needle back and forth, and it will pull that thread inside the head so you won't see it. Okay, there you go. Okay, so now we're ready to sew on the ears. Now I like to look at the top of my head here, and where I spaced the ears on my other one, I want to space them evenly on both sides. So what I do is I make sure the eyes are facing forward toward me and centered. You can even put this braid of the hanger right there down the middle, and it kind of helps you see the middle of the face. And then I'm going to, I've already yarned my needle here, and I'm going to put this edge of the ear, I'm going to put it on the, let's see, 1, 2, I'm going to put it on this third round, okay, on this side. You want to make sure it's centered on that side as much as you can, and then pull your stitch up, and then start securing the ear. And like I said, I do like to kind of put a curve to the ear a little bit. Okay, so, and like I said, you can use straight pins to hold your pieces down if that is helpful for you. Okay. Now I'm going to go back into the ear, and I need to go through both thicknesses of the ear. Okay, so now I've got it anchored down pretty good on that one side. And so in the back, I'm going to go through the head part. It's like doing a whip stitch. Oops, let's try that again. Okay. So from the back, I'm just going into the head, and then from the front, I'm going to go through the ear, and I need to make sure I go through both thicknesses, the front and the back piece of the ear. Oops, didn't get the back piece. There you go. And secure the ear down. And as you're stitching it, go ahead and kind of fold the ear forward a little bit to get that cupped effect of the ear. And I want to make sure the end of the ear goes to row 7, which is the top part of that eye, okay? That's equal, see, like that. So I just keep doing this whip stitch down the side. Oops. Okay. Go through the front and the back piece of the ear, getting both thicknesses. And keep checking your placement. Okay, looking pretty good. Okay. And now this edge here, I want it to cup forward just a little bit, like that, see? So, okay, and you go through the edge, both thicknesses, and down into the head. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Okay. Now you can, if you feel like it's not on there secure enough, you can work your way back up the ear doing the same thing, okay? Going through the ear and into the head. Like that. And the more you practice sewing on ears and, you know, pieces to your amigurumi, the better that you get. Just takes practice. You don't have to get in a hurry to do it. You just kind of take your time and keep looking at it to see, you know, stop and look at it and make sure the placement is looking good, the way the place where you're wanting it. Okay. Okay, that looks pretty good. Okay, so now I'm going to take a few stitches into the head to weave in my tail here before I cut it off. Okay, and then I take my scissors and clip it off. Okay, so there you go. We got one ear. Now we need one more. Okay, so I was getting ready to sew this other ear on, but I just want to clarify or make sure to point this out that since we started this ear on this side from, let's see, on the 3rd round, so this is 1, 2, 3, you want to make sure you start your ear on the 3rd round on the opposite side, okay? So, and you can kind of do it this way to see if you're making it equal to where the other ear is. Okay, so remember on the third round, so that's 1, 2, and 3. So we're gonna stick our first stitch right there. It looks like it's even to where the other ear is. Okay. And now I'm going to start working just the same way I did on this side, and I'm going to stitch this down, and the bottom of the ear will line up with the top of the eye, which is round 7 of your head. Okay. Okay, so I'll sew this on and I'll show you the final result. Okay, so I got the other ear sewed on, and that completes our backpack buddy. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. So thanks for coming along with me, guys, and making this backpack buddy with me. And we will see you in the next video. Bye.